Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the NLC. We're getting ready to go into game number 2. This game is going to be a juicy one. It's Godsent, who is 0-5 in the standings, taking on Trick, who are 4-1. I think there's a pretty expected outcome from this game.
Right? Hey. The last time a 0-5 team played, they won. And that was Dusty versus Fnatic. You know, so this stranger things have happened. We don't even have to go back to last week. You know, can't write them off just yet. Having said that, it's still going to be a difficult game to win.
It's definitely going to be a harder one to win. Jamada, what have we got our eyes on then? Because, you know, for Trick, we can talk about them at length, but I want to talk about Godsent for the moment. And, you know, what do you think is going wrong for them?
I think it's kind of across the board struggles. I don't necessarily know what it is entirely. Whether it's like a lack of identity or understanding of the meta. But it just seems like whatever Godsent throw out there, they're just never able to execute on it. It doesn't matter how high or low the execution floor is for their compositions either. It just seems like something is lacking, something's not clicking amongst these guys. And it's unfortunate to see that because, you know, I think that quite a few of these players are individually quite talented, right? Aesthetic has shown that he's very capable. Yusa we will know about from, you know, days gone by. He's also a very individually talented AD carry. But something's not working. And they've got to sort it out soon, basically, because 0-5 is not the position you want to be in. I think it's 18 or 16 games that you get in the regular split. Yeah. So if they have any chance of making it into playoffs, they've got to kick into gear.
And remember as well, playoffs, there's less spots in the playoffs than there were last season. Last season, it was top 4 from each group. So it was 8 teams in the playoff. This time, it's just top 3. So 2 spots have just been completely removed. And if you are running at the kind of bottom of the pack and you're behind everybody else, you know, the odds of actually making playoffs is pretty rough. And, you know, I think we've got a good group of teams who could potentially make playoffs. And at the moment, Godsent are definitely not on that list. But we are into picks and bans. Renekton will be our first ban of this game. Expecting to see the standards here. I feel like when you talk about ban phase, it's only really when there's the juicy bans that come out.
Yeah, so no special bans coming out in the first 2. Renekton, Gwen. Expect to see things like Karma, Thresh, Ezreal, maybe a Rumble. It kind of depends. I feel like Rumble always manages to get through in like 80% of drafts. Stuff like Tristana. So, you know, I don't expect these bans to necessarily be too out there. It's more about what's actually left up on the table, what these 2 teams will be willing to first pick. When it comes to Tricked, you know, they like to play into strong side bots a fair amount of the time. I think then Voxnay is very strong. But honestly, across the board, it doesn't really matter for Tricked. I feel like they always come in with, you know, slightly differing drafts, and they can execute on just about anything we've seen. So I think it's more on how Godsent will respond to whatever the Tricked boys will throw at them in this draft.
Alrighty, well, the final ban here is going to be the Lucian. Go on, Foxy.
I'm keeping my eyes on Taxa and what he decides to play this game, because I feel like he's not. I don't think it's fair to say he's a step behind the meta, but I feel like he definitely has comfort picks, and specifically like he's played so much Udyr, you know, and it's just like a lot of teams are kind of like leaning away from Udyr, but he still has very high priority on that. And now Volibear is coming back into the meta as well. Zinzao too. Obviously the Zin's banned away. But these kind of champions will do similar things with similar play styles. So maybe Taxa will just default onto that, because we do have some good junglers still open. And Steg's going to pick one of them. That is the Rumble. And the Lee Sin, a pretty strong one too there for Godsent.
They get the Lulu though for Tricked. So we'll see what they're going to try and answer out here. Like you said, you know, things like Udyr is potentially still a pickable champion for Taxa, but the Volibear's open. Looks like finally finished eating Cucumber. I can actually read up on what's strong in the current meta. So it might just be his final pick up here for him.
Yeah, he's done snacking. He's finally reading up on the patch notes. Yeah, Volibear, of course, we've seen a lot, but this is actually one I wanted to talk about, the Viego with the Lulu, because I think amongst all of the utility mages that get picked up in the solo lanes with some of these stronger junglers, I feel like it's Karma plus Zinzao, and then also Lulu Viego is starting to pick up as sort of this other answer into it. So I think Tricked reading into that, and we're going to get to probably see that. I'm expecting Madly will be piloting the Lulu unless we see a really optimal lane for Lulu to go into on the bottom side. And now for Tricked, you can look at, you know, an AD carry I think would be the best thing, unless we actually do see Soraka locked in. Okay, there we go.
That is 0, and it stayed on 0
lost for so long, yeah. But I think it's just the way the HUD is optimized here. But yeah, Jace instead, so obviously solo lane pickup. We've seen Pulse on Pilot a couple of times. I feel like a lot of our mid laners are really, really good chase players here in the NLC. And now over to Godsent. Honestly, I would like to see something like potentially Advaris or a strong-sided AD carry. I think Senna wouldn't necessarily be in that kind of direction. I'm not entirely sold on this Senna lock, simply because you've got Lee Sin. Lee can work, yes, as like a strong side pick because he gets so much priority, but I think he works better as a weak side laner because he can, you know, lock down these waves. He's so hard to actually gank. You can kick people away when they try and stack up onto you. And then it sets up for things like Varus's and other strong-sided AD carries like Kalista, for example, as well, that can kind of take over on the bot side whilst you have an ungankable top side.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the Trick draft as well right now is technically we've got pretty strong flexes across the board. Yeah. My estimation is that it's going to be exactly as you see it. Madly on Lulu, Tax on Viego, and Jace mid, but theoretically, you know, if that is, they do want to throw a bit of a spanner there in the draft and give a curveball over to Godsent, then they can do that. You're seeing Trick just ban away good partners for the center as well. We've seen things like even Sion go in with the center. Who else do they pair? There's another one I'm forgetting as well. But basically anything that works well with center, just put it in the bin.
All right, well, the ban phase is going through. The Ezreal, the Thresh have been taken away. Final bans coming in from Tricksters this time. Kench, obviously, pairing that up with the Senna could be pretty nasty. So, still their final ban is. I'm curious to see what Godsent decide to put in the bot lane, whether or not this is going to be that fasting Senna, which you kind of expect it to be with the set denied as well. It's kind of another one of those really powerful champions that pairs up well with the Senna. So, I'm curious to see what they decide to put in the bot lane.
Yeah, we've seen loads of champions be paired up with things with the fasting center. You know, Norless is also something I saw over on the UKLC. Wukong was like one of the original pairings with it, and that's what we're going to see locked in. So very exciting from the bottom side of Godsent. And depending on what the pairing was with this center, I was actually going to say Lulu could honestly end up in the bottom side, and we could see like a hyper scaling AD carry. I think with Wukong, that's definitely probably going to push the Lulu up into the top side, and we're going to see something a little more sort of defensive reactive that can handle some of the aggression and all-in that can come from a center Wukong, especially once level 6 comes in. So I'm expecting, okay, well, I wasn't going to say Kog'Maw. That's a little bit risky, I think, when you're talking about some of the early range and poke and sustain that can come through from the center Wukong. But honestly, with the Kog'Maw locked in, it kind of makes me think maybe they will just chuck the Lulu into the bottom side unless they want to pair it with a more defensive sort of tanky support. They are lacking on the engage, something like Leona. Braum, as well, can fit that whole kind of profile as well. So I think Tricked, pretty defined composition on what they want to do at the moment. They've got the Kog'Maw for scaling. They've got pretty strong sided solo laners as well in the Jace and the Lulu. So honestly, loads of options to play towards. And when you think about how fast Viego can also stack the concussive blows, playing towards the bot side isn't even a bad idea either.
And I think as well, the benefit of having the Braum here is you've actually got someone who can soak up some damage, soak up some hits, and he makes it kind of hard for Godsent to really dogpile into their engage after Wukong and Rumble's gone in. See, Wukong could be top here.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that because you can put
Sion
the
could also
mid.
be top here.
There's a lot of flexibility between Lee, Wukong, and Sion, so let's just wait until their pairings. I think realistically, you probably just put the Sion into Lulu because it's going to be a pretty free lane for him to just stack HP. And you've got that all in from the Wukong and center on the bottom side to at least attempt to kill the Kog'Maw. I think when you've got Braum there, it's going to be relatively difficult. But I will say there's no Lantern to save then Voxnay from the Rumble Equalizer, so that could be something that we see a fair amount.
And this is the Braum ulti. You slap that down, and then if Rumble equalizes, you know, if Wukong, you think you're going to get that engage go through or whatever it is, you hear the dinner bell from Sion, you slap that down, and then suddenly you've got a little bit of time to like buy for yourself to peel back and all that lovely business. So I like the fact that they didn't go for Kog Lulu bot. I do think that would have been a little too much. But, you know, overall, I think Trick to draft themselves pretty clearly win condition. And then Voxnay, as far as AD carries go, he's pretty poggy. Like, he's a pretty good ADC in the NLC. So yeah, I'm down for this Kog'Maw play.
Well, it's time for us to get into game 2. So we're going to pass it over to the new kid on the block and a kid. See you in a bit.
The kid. Hello, everyone. It's me, Viper and Goldberg, back again for game number 2 of the evening. We got Tricked and we've got Godsent. And Goldberg, is Den Voxnay enough of a win condition?
I mean, it's definitely going to come down to execution and getting to the point in the game. Once again, I will say they have some early strengths they can play towards. Cockmore this time around is... I don't think you should... Most people should think of him as the kind of Cockmore we know for like some couple seasons back, where he was very reliant on having a lot of disengage and just peel in general. This time around with the Brom, it should be enough. We've seen Cockmore even go with boot starts as well, and then just pots to kind of survive to sustain. But he's actually going to go for the Doran's Blade, and it's just going to keep Avid. He's actually gone for the Hail of Blades together with the Brom as well, which is going to help up stacking these concussive blows. So make no mistakes, they can still have kill pressure down here if Godsent overextend. I like what they still have on the other side of the map for Godsent. It's very clear that their bot side is the kind of weak side here with the center, with the Wukong, who's going to be more viable towards the team fights as well, and obviously pairs well against the Cockmore as soon as he hits that level 6. So for aesthetic, once again, full clears and then perhaps getting something done with 610s where they're either able to create some skirmishes on a Lulu who's pre-6, gonna have some issues dealing with the dives, can only really polymorph one target, so if you're able to 3-man dive her while the other people from Tricked is diversing their resources towards the bottom lane, well, that could potentially be a point of view to start an attack.
Well, it's just been standard lines of scrimmage as we do find ourselves on the Rift. Tricked on the blue side, Godsent on the red. And Godsent, I'm upset with you because your shenanigans in Champ Select with all different options going down with Senna absolutely ruined my notes. So, you know what? That's pause. They're furious with me on that. It means we get to talk a little bit more, but do you think that Godsent went for what you would describe as the optimal way of putting these champions into a team composition in this game?
You know what? I'm just going to say it's a very Godsent way of doing it. They're known as the kind of team that likes to go in, engage. Svenna used to be a top laner in the past as well, so Wukong is not a champion that is new for him whatsoever. He used to play these brawlers, and we know Sven as the guy that likes to go in and fight. And a lot of the champions right now on Godsent likes to create these skirmishes. They like to team fight, so it's very Godsent-esque. Then you can kind of say, well, there's 0 and 5 so far, so how does that work out? Well, I guess this is what this game is really going to prove.
That's not rousing affirmation of how good Godsent are going to be this game, but one thing I want to keep our eyes on is Taxa, because we talked to him a little bit earlier, loves a bit of cucumber, does our man, and he's played 5 games so far and has been involved in 80% of the first bloods in games he's been in. So for those of you who aren't as quick at maths as I am, that's 4 first bloods, so will Viego be involved again?
Just for the people who didn't get that context, we had a content video with Taxa.
Oh yeah, if you just tuned in,
was cucumber in between scrims. So yeah, just out of context. I
like to think it's better out of context. Just snacking on cucumber, just having a good time. No,
yeah. But here we kind of see it. Like Cockmore can still be a strong side AD carry on his own, specifically compared up with a Braum when you have that Hail of Blades. And we'll say then Voxter probably took too many traits there that wasn't specifically needed, but up until that point you can clearly see they are the one with the wave pressure. They are the one dictating the pace here, and they are the one getting level 2 first and are able to push in.
And yeah, as you said, with the Braum around and the Hail of Blades, it's very, very dangerous if Yusa gets caught out and stunned up, because he can take a decent amount of damage in this bot side. And you can see the junglers just doing standard horizontal clears will both end up on this bot side. So keep your eyes on the lane state down there to see if there's anything that either Aesthetic or Taxa can maybe look to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then once again, Jace in the mid lane. We talked about it in the game just before, how easy it is for this champion to get some priority. Well, that can kind of be the case again against the Lee Sin here. So I'm kind of counting on the Jace to get a lot of pressure, specifically after the first pack as well, and then kind of trying to use that pressure to move towards the bot lane, because realistically speaking, I don't think we're going to see too much action from Trick up towards that Lulu. She is like the weakest of the weak sides.
You're not strong-sided Lulu? Madness. Devox needs to be careful here, actually. A lot of damage being taken by that shield, but Aesthetic is here. It's a 3v3 with Taxa being involved as well. This is a true and real scrap. Aesthetic gets stunned down, but still gets help with the first blood. Devox does not flash away, goes forward, gets the kill. It's a double for the Wukong, though, as Vene makes him pay. The explosion means nothing, and it's 2-1 Godsent.
Yeah, exactly the skirmish you needed. Crucially, Yusa was able to land a W and root and Voxer down, so he'd taken a lot of damage when the fight initially broke out. And the fact that the concussive blows were not able to be stacked early in that team fight meant no resets for the Viego. It kind of made that a hard fight, and Yeah, we kind of get it here. I like the decisiveness for aesthetic. I like the fact that he just decided that flashing over that wall with no blast cone, that was the play to go for. And here we kind of see it.
You can see he's thinking about it. Gonna just dive over and get involved in the fight. Both junglers heavily involved in this one, but Voxley not able to get the flash to safety, really decides, I'm just going to go in, grab myself a kill, and goes down himself. But you can also see with the Lee Sin moving down, it was kind of a done deal for Godsent. But this is the kind of start that we wanted to see from them.
100%, and now the lane becomes even tougher. Sheen picked up with Svenis, gonna go for that Divine Sunderer build. We know this is just League of Divine Sunderer after the buff came into that item. And now the lane starts to become a bit tougher for the Voxner on this Cockmore. We talked about it in a vacuum, this 2v2. It's actually not that bad for Cockmore. But it turns to get quite bad when your opponent is 2 kills up on you. And even in CS as a melee. So yeah, I expect Godsent to be having more priority towards this bot lane. I expect them with that priority to kind of move in and especially go for the first Drake. Right now though, it is slow pushing towards them. That kind of came because the wave crashed and now it's just, you know, build up, going back towards them. And the rest of the map right now, just full clearing that top side, and you can see them, they're pathing down towards the bottom again. They're looking to put the resources, potentially vision, or just see if any skirmish around towards that bottom lane.
As you said, Taxa's not going to be particularly interested in getting involved with whatever's going to be going on top. Lulu versus Sion, not the most interactive lane for anyone involved in that one. So junglers just going to leave the top side. Hope that Kuba and Madly are going to have a good time and move towards this bot side. Taxa has just snuck in under the scoreboard there. As you can see, going to be trying to get involved in this play as much as possible. Tricked, could they look to bounce this wave and then go for the fight?
Well, they could. They could also try and bait in the counter gang. You can see Aesthetic also in the vicinity. But it looks like he's just going to be there to shadow them, tax them, make sure they can get the crash, and then just get a safe recall here. But I honestly like what we're seeing from Godsent. This is one of the better early games we've seen throughout all of NLC, really. And the fact is that they're able to maintain it this early and not making any mistakes for a skirmish like that is especially what you like to see. I also like the stylistic of their composition. We talked about it, both teams here. Weak side, top side. Lulu, yes, she does scale nice into the Sion, where she's just able to pick up her items uncontested. But the same kind of goes for Sion. He's able to stack that W passive, where he's just going to be able to get more and more HP, the more and more CS he can get.
Just so a little put in our screen, no one beats Godsent 5 times in a row. They're currently 0-5, so I'm not sure if that's, you know, no one beats Godsent 6 times in a row is what they'll be saying. And Jamada talked about this. He said they've got talented players on their roster, and maybe with this composition where there's a little bit more agency from players like Zvene, like Aesthetic, who can really show off what they've got.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, sometimes with new teams, it's just about gelling together. Godsent roster did come in as a new rebuilt roster into this one. Trick. Pretty much a new team. Kept the only member they kept was Polson, but then Voxner and Polson is former teammates. So there's obviously some inbuilt synergy there, and the coach actually, I remember as to also have worked with them in the past. So even though this Trick new lineup is fairly new, so good friendships between them from the past is obviously still going to help with that synergy that paid its dividends this so far in the split. 4-1 start. And Trick, obviously, when we start the conversation is who's going to be able to beat these academy teams. Very often, Trick will be brought into that conversation. But going even like this against Godsent 0-5 team, not as convincing as what we've come to expect from them.
I mean, last time we saw a 0-5 team play, Foxdrop said they got the win against Fnatic Rising, and in that matchup, Dusty Fnatic Rising, you'd probably say that that one's on paper a little bit more one-sided than Tricked going up against Godsent, so we could be in for a massive upset once again.
Most definitely could. Now, both neutral objectives in the Rift Herald and into Drake is up and available, I think, right now for Godsent. Yeah, exactly what they're doing right now. Move user up here. Just let the Wukong farm alone. He's essentially a melee top laner you've just put towards the bottom. And then you have your support going for the Rift Herald. But I like what Tricked is doing. Immediately, they know, all right, rest of the members up towards the Rift Herald. Let's get this Drake immediately. And I don't actually think they should be allowed to do this. I think there's a world where Trick shouldn't be allowed to actually go for that contestation there. But this time around, they will just be trading the objectives. And with the Rift Herald, Aesthetic can be looking on to infuse another lane with more gold if they'd like to. But so far, all 5 plays are up in all lanes, except this top lane I'm seeing right now. So when I said that, it fell.
You know, sometimes Caster Curse is big, sometimes it's small. That was a small one, so it's okay. We haven't really talked too much about top side. It's Lulu's Sarn, so there's not been that much to talk about, really. Just going to be the scaling. As you said, Sarn getting that health, Lulu just having a grand old time up there. So definitely not going to be where they want to invest the gold.
There's definitely not, but you can already see, once again, when people are hovering, they are hovering towards the spot side. I think right now that just due to the nature of how these team comps are looking, that we're going to be having some quote-unquote stale gameplay for just a bit yet, as I say that Paulson starts trading up nicely in the mid lane, but that is due to the fact that Jace most of the times wants his Mora Marina stack. He wants that 2-item spike, preferably 3, with the Cyrilda's Squatch as well being picked up for that huge damage we've seen so many times with the poke. And then obviously the Cockball. So what right now you're trying to do is Trick is just trying to stall out the game as fast as possible. You don't want to commit to any plays. Like, you prefer this laning phase just to go on forever. So the fact that no one has been able to pick up plates, the fact that no one has been able to make a turret low enough to actually commit to it with a dive or with the Rift Hell to just completely tear up a turret, really good.
Well, Madly might be in trouble here. The snipe comes through from the center, but not going to be able to get the damage down. Kabu getting the flash forward, gets the full knock-up, and Aesthetic with the slow should apply the finishing touch. There's the burn and there's the kill. Godsent pick up another on top side, but look for the reset.
Yeah, what can they get elsewhere? It doesn't really look like there's anything for them to get, really. Rift Hell will not get dropped, and I think that's the reasonable choice here. I don't see much reason to give that over to your Sion. TP is up for Matley. He's going to be able to be back and skirmish around the Viego if he'd like to. Then Spinner down here actually spotted by them Voxner, so he's just going to be forcing back to the turret. And then once again, Viperoon, we're back into this stalemate where there's not really much for both teams to do. For Godsent to bait out Trick, they need this Drake stacking going. They need to commit to an objective. But Trick is just making it really hard for them because they're making the game as slow as possible.
You know what? The first game we had today was really, really quick. There was fighting all over the place. It was done in 24 minutes. It's okay to have a little bit of a slower pace one in the second game.
I hate it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll try my best. Fight Trick. Don't play to your game plan. Just run it, I guess. But it's Trick just want to be maintaining the tempo. We talked how this was a good start for Godsent from what we've seen before. They're only like 400 gold ahead, and Madly in a lot of trouble here. Once again, will get knocked up. The damage comes through. The huge fire is going to do absolutely nothing as Aesthetic picks up his second kill of the game.
And Crash, this time around, you could actually use the Rift Hell. Taxo is not around. Madly, yes, he does have TP, but 20 seconds until he respawns. So I think Godsent is just going to make use of this Rift Hell, get the gold they can onto the side and onto the Rumble, and then use him in the mid lane, though.
Sixten needs to be very careful. Nice kick away, but Paulson, no! The dive and the slow shot will not land. 610 gets away as tower goes down top.
Yeah, I like the little cute sidestep from Paulson so he wouldn't get hit by the kick, but he's not able to commit or connect the shot blast onto the 610 as soon as he walks up his way. And then we take a look onto the gold right now. Jungle, 1k gold lead over to the Rumble. Aesthetic has clearly been the facilitator for his team this time around, not only just in the gold, but also in terms of his positioning. Was down in the bottom lane when that first skirmish broke out and they got their kills. And now up towards the top side, he's the one with the Rift Hell, with the kills, that's been able to facilitate this small gold lead they have right now onto the side of Godsent.
And I said that Taxa was the jungler that we needed to watch at the beginning of the game, and once again, Viperoon's wrong. Aesthetic has been running the Rift. 2-1-2 involved in every single kill, including the opposing team's one. You know, you gotta honor the commitment there.
Yeah, you for sure has to. 40 seconds until the second neutral objective is going to be spawning, and you'd suspect that going over to Godsent. I don't think there's much Trick can do at this point in time. They don't need to fight for it. They still need to wait for their items. And Godsent, we talked about it, they want to get their Drake stat going, just so they can put Trick in a position at some point in time where they're not feeling confident to contest, in a position where they have to, if Soul was on the table. The problem is right now for them, Trick got the first objective with the Drake, so they've at least bought themselves 5 extra minutes.
Shocker, Trick slow down the game. Okay, I see why you don't like this now. It's only been 2 minutes, but I've come around to your way of thinking. Can we get some fighting, please? But second dragon's on the menu. It could be look to start playing around that one. Godsent might want to go a bit aggressively, but it is actually Trick who have the advantage. Teleport is being used, but Kog'Maw and Braum already on site.
Yeah, so I think they could go in and get the vision, but as soon as Kubu wants to start the fight, he's already really tanky. He's got the Frostfire Gauntlet. He's got the Bramble West as well. No one's probably going to be able to cut through him. So I think as soon as the priority comes through from Godsent again, as soon as Aesthetic is out on the map, they'll just be forced to give up this objective. I'd be very surprised if Trick got this Drake.
Strange things have happened, though. It must be said. And currently, there's a little bit of vision around the river, but not too much. Mid lane, we talked about the Jace, how he's a bit of a bully, but 610 seems to be doing absolutely fine in this one.
Yeah, it's not really been a problem for him. And as soon as you start picking up that Iron Spike Whip, you will start one-shotting the backline minions with just your E and the Iron Spike Whip passive. So it becomes really easy for him to kind of match the push there. But you can see User also up here to help him out. Oh, yep, okay. User here to disconnect a bit. Some internet issues, it seems like.
You know, we're going to hopefully get that one resolved for you as soon as possible. We'll take a break. It's crazy one having a break from a game that has been very, very slow. There hasn't been too much action, but it's all about mind games, right, Goldberg? You have to read a little bit deeper to get the full enjoyment out of a game like this. I like
the way you phrase it.
We're intellectuals here on the NLC, and we're just going to be looking at, you know, goal differences and stats and how the teams are moving. And I mean, the macro game has been relatively interesting this time around.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down once again to what this team wants to do with their win condition, right? And before that, the items asking through from the side of Trick, they just don't want to fight. Like, they literally just want to wave clear until they're on 2 items. So that's what we're going to be waiting for, quite frankly. So yeah, well, you have it. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat, because you're in for a long break.
I'll tuck myself in.
Not really. We should be back as soon as possible. It is User with a small internet connection, but I have been told by our admin teams that he should be back up and running in just momentarily. But yeah, Galaxy Racer, they need to be able to punish a bit more. Yes, they got some goal up towards the top side of the map, and that was one point of attack which you succeeded in, but you kind of need more picks. You can't keep going with this stale playstyle that Trick is trying to induce the game with, because if you do that, you'll just fall trap forward, you'll get a very slow momentum yourself, and then before you know it, you will be outscaled by the composition, where it's going to be extremely hard for you to get onto the Cockmore in a team fight setting, because yes, there's a Braum, but there's also a Lulu, just to make matters even worse.
I mean, must be the question, because Godsent have found themselves a 2,000 gold lead as plates fell off at 14 minutes, which isn't necessarily a position that we expected them to be in going into picks and bans, just because of the way that Godsent season has gone so far. But if you're looking at Godsent at this point in the game, is 2,000 gold lead enough? Because as you say, you've got this Denvox Gate ticking time bomb, which is going to be a massive problem later in the game.
I'd definitely say that the good point for them here is that they have that gold lead onto their jungler. They have that gold lead onto the man who can move around the most at the side lane. And the fact that top lane is already cleared out means that as a Siren right now, you can push that for like fully out, just go to another lane and then just Siren ultimate down that lane if you want to. Equalizer is going to have a fairly long range as well to get on top of that. So just keep trying to force something. So you can even try to get some counter juggling going, see if you can put Taxa even further behind just to accelerate the lead you have from Aesthetic. I think we need to take a look onto Aesthetic as soon as the pulse is resolved, because he's going to be the driving factor for Godsent, sorry. He's going to be the one who needs to lead his team forward. And yep, they are going to get the Drake here, as we talked about. Not much Trick really wants here. They don't have any business going for it. They are trying to commit a topside play though, which I think Godsent is just going to try and stop here. Equalizer.
Also going to be flashed onto as well. He's burning down. He goes to death as Godsent pick up another 610 this time around with his first kill of the game.
Yeah, I think that was fairly greedy for Paulson. He did not have any flash. He overstayed for the wave, and Taxa thought he could cross map it, but as soon as that Drake is done, they're just going to move themselves up towards the top side of the map instead. Then yeah, there you go. Godsent getting the Drake and should be able to pick up the second Herald. So we talked acceleration, and Godsent just upped the gear one notch.
I mean, last Dragon and Rift Herald exchange, it was 1-for-1. You said that it was kind of a mistake by Godsent to allow Trick to get onto that Rift Herald. This time around, they pick up both and a kill in between. So they've got this battery ram, won't get too much gold because plates have fallen off, but they will be able to get down some of these towers, maybe the mid-outer, which is still pretty much full health.
Yeah, I mean, what you can do right now is just push in the top side, use that top side pressure, use it towards the mid lane, use it towards the bottom lane if you want to. I think the only mistake right now here for Godsent is that they are leaving the bot lane very valuable or vulnerable. They don't have mid lane priority, which means that the rest of Trick can just move down, and Svenner, he might be in for some hurt here. TPs.
Lots of trouble, but he's going to give them the mind games. Multiple members showing up, and here's the Scion runs right into Lucky on the Braum. Takes basically no damage. The shield is unbreakable, and a little bit of poke will just see that team fight dissipate. No one goes down. Resources burned, but ultimately, Wukong survives.
Yeah, he does survive, but you gotta think this also creates a situation where Godsent no longer have those TPs to create some engages for themselves. They were not able to use that pressure they had off the top side onto the mid lane because they had to salvage bot. Okay, then Vox, they need to be a bit careful.
Gonna be able to get out okay though. This Rift Herald has been dropped mid as we suggested it may well be, and with a lot of priority being put on that bot side, it should be a free charge, a lot of damage coming down. Taxa has shown up to clear this one out before the tower goes down, but it will be a much easier nut to crack next time they get a siege on.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Cyan, as we talked about, wasn't able to join it, had to TP down towards the bot side of the map, so Tricked, they actually created a situation where they would either get the Wukong where they would get a kill, or they would get the TPs out from Godsent where they would not be able to use those aggressively, but had to use them defensively. And we talked about Godsent right now. Their priority as a roster, their priority as a composition right now is to be the aggressor. It's not to play on your back foot. And right now they're going back to the aggressive style.
Also not going back to the fountain this time around, manages to flash away. Lucky here to give him some emotional support, if nothing else, on the side there. And you know, once again, Tricked get away. You've got to be imagining Tricked just saying every play we survive, every time Godsent don't gain an advantage, that's a massive tick in the column that is going to be a Tricked win, because they're behind, but they're not that far behind.
But it's also how do we use these small advantages. Now Paulson no flash again. So they need to be actually abusing that. You can see Cyan right now, QB, is moving off from the bot side into the mid lane. And I think they want to break this out now. I think they want to be able to go for it. But no, I'm absolutely wrong. They're just going to go back and clear the waste against them. Tricked with their game plan coming to fruition once again. But I think it's just a matter of time before Godsent will be able to put the final nail in that outer turret coffin.
The outer tower will open up the jungle for them a little bit more. And for Godsent, I think the proof will be in how they use breaking down this objective, because Tricked have abandoned it a little bit. You can see Lucky coming through with Devox there, but Aesthetic going to cut off the route with the Equalizer. Massive engage coming through from Wukong, and the Kog'Maw's gone down. Sarn running through just to get involved, wants to take a little bit of damage from that Kog'Maw passive, but there goes the mid lane tower, and it took a pick to do it.
Yeah, what an amazing pick coming out from Aesthetic. Catches then Vox and Lucky coming into a greedy pathing from that mid lane, and they just get absolutely blasted by that Equalizer. Finally pick up the mid lane, they get 2 kills, and what do you know, 50 seconds until the next Drake for Godsent. That should be looking to be their next objective as well.
Taking stock of the game, 19 minutes in, so Baron not on the menu just yet. Dragon going to be coming up around the same time. Do either of these teams have a particularly safe or quick Baron at 20? Because I'm not sure.
It is going to be the question, but I mean, it's going to take some time before they can get the Drake stacking really going to this point. We talked about they are still 5 minutes behind due to the Drake being able to pick up the first one. And right now, the Paulson taking stock of the items is on the second Mirror Mana. It's almost stacked fully up. He's going to be waiting for that Cyril to squash. And then the Voxner trying to pick up the Wit's End, it looks like, would probably prefer having a third item as well before they really want to get up there and fight. But 20-minute mark, Baron soon. I don't think the composition of Godsent will be able to melt that Baron. It's still a fairly slow Baron taking team, which is probably going to give Trick some extra breathing room when that starts getting on the table.
Well, loads of breathing room for Godsent around this Dragon. Third Drake is often one that we see a fight over, but this time around, Trick's not interested. It's the first of the Ocean. It will be our soul for the game. Those of you wandering at home, but they're going to be picking that one up uncontested. Madly in the top side needs to be a little bit careful that Kubu doesn't get on top of him, but he's going to be able to scamper away.
He will Aesthetic though, looking to get into the enemy jungle here. He does have bag up to catch Taxa.
Has been caught out by the red trinket though, and Yusa just going to escort Aesthetic towards this mid lane. Devox and Lucky are standing around, getting on top of this Kog'Maw. Every time that Devox gets engaged on, he's gone down twice already. Both times, Godsent have been able to find something decent off the back of it. So really, Trick needs to be trying to keep this, I don't know what Kog'Maw is, an anglerfish with this skin. They need to keep the anglerfish alive in order to see the game plan through to fruition, even at these early stages.
Yeah, so Godsent now has come through from Dunvox. It's going to be curious to see if he's going to go for the classic Randium's third item, or if it is going to be the Hurricane to dish out more damage in these team fights. Because now 2 items has been finished up from most members of Tricked Esports, so could be looking to try and start finding some picks now. Remember, Lucky with the concussive bows onto the Braum should still be able to proc them fairly easy, either with the Hail of Blades from Cockmore or with the W passive, or active rather, from Jace as well. So they could be looking to start some picks here soon.
Well, this is going to be a very important moment, right? Because Tricked have been very reactionary this game, and that's their game plan. They've been doing it pretty well so far. The fact is, though, you need to be able to transition from being reactionary to being the team that takes the fights, makes the plays. Unless you're really believing that Godsent will make a mistake that will allow Tricked into the game. And Godsent, they haven't looked perfect, but honestly, coming in 0-5, they've looked pretty decent.
Yeah, they most certainly have. Like, this is the best, and we said it earlier as well. This is the best we've seen Godsent so far. We usually see them go for some risky skirmishes, not really upping the tempo with the correct rotations, but this time around, they've done basically everything they've had to do, and they're still looking to be aggressive. Equalizer, yes, it goes on a cooldown, but come on, that ultimate is up again in almost 40 seconds.
Look at the
one of the lowest ultimate ultimates right now.
How? Why? Why is it so quick? It's already half back. And you could just drop it there. It's not a big resource to burn to just try and scarper away from the Tricked roster. And Dragon going to be up in 2.5 minutes. Baron already available. Actually, look at this. Godsent have made a start on it.
This is going to take some time, though. I feel like you can see pinks are starting to come through as well. And yeah, Godsent, they'll just have to back off this one. Blue Trinkets come through. They don't need to face check anything. And that's kind of the thing. Yes, Rumble can burn through it as soon as his Q and his overheat is up, but after that, there's really not much stopping it. Equalizer comes through.
Once again, the side ultimate will land, but again, it's just into Lucky. The Braum goes half health, gets exhausted as well. But the engage comes through from Trick. They're looking to get on top of the side. He's polymorphed and he goes down into passive, though, so he's still going to be putting in a decent amount of damage. You can see Taxa was starting for a moment, didn't have any follow-up, but that's the kill that Trick would have wanted. They turned the fight around and picked themselves up their second kill of the game.
And there you see it. Was that 2 items onto Trick's carries? All right, guess we can start fighting now. Need to be a bit careful, though. Equalizer's cooldown is almost up again, unfortunately.
I just don't like it. I'm not a fan of how many times Aesthetic is just able to lay down that ultimate. It's so impactful, it does so much damage, and it's going to be spooking Tricked away from this Baron, because we all know that Baron Buff loves getting rid of some magic resist when you're trying to take it. And one clean Equalizer, one clean red carpet across the face of this Trick team if they're trying to steal that objective away, that's going to sting.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well, and probably why they decided not to go for it either. It's a good shout there for you, Peru. But now,
nice
items again from Trick is starting to stack up. You can see it looks like Dunvoxner will be going for that Randium's Omen and on towards the mid lane Paulson. When he picks up that Cyrilda's Grotch, he's going to be very scary. So for Godsent, your plan of attack needs to come soon. You could have been on Soul Point now if you got the first Drake, but you didn't. And that makes this Drake very easy for Trick to fight over. They don't need to get it, but they can right now if they feel like they have the capable fighting capabilities of it.
And I mean, that's the perfect position. They don't have to overcommit. They don't have to throw bodies and sacrifice members to stop this dragon going down. But if they feel confident, but it looks like Godsent grouping up, looking to try and get an engage going on. But the inside track is Trick's right now. Godsent moving down the mid lane, trying to get as much priority and push as possible to try and get Tricked back away from the objective. And that's exactly what they've done. But the poke's going nowhere, and the two teams just, proxying each other a little bit, but not really getting too much work done in terms of poke or damage onto enemy champions.
Yeah, but they are going to move their resources up towards the top side of the map, and forcing Trick to face check could be a good start of attack for Godsent. Svenne is on the flank, Equalizer's up, and so is Q-Poof's Unstoppable Force, so let's look for the turn here.
Big resources are available. Svenne doesn't want to go for the flank, actually wants to be next to his team, so he just slides on through. Baron at 6,000 health, but it's going to be reset as Trick just move a little aggressively forward to make sure that Godsent are taking this one down. They're going to be clearing out vision, though, and could look to restart it. We could be seeing a very, very slow Dragon dance from a Baron dance from these two teams, as Trick do have the inside track on the mid lane.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't need to step up for Baron again. They reset it. They should just be opening up this mid lane turret to get more pressure, to push the wave forward. Yeah, exactly like this. And then they can move back onto Drake. Then they can move forward if they want to press the fight. And there we go.
Through. Doesn't hit Denvox. They know he's on the back, pretty much untouched. 610 trying to get on top of it. Nice flash from the Cockmore helps him get away. He's going to be kicked out of the fight though, as it looks like Godsent want to take it without him. But Denvox is back in, madly getting ripped apart. They're Paulson on the side, untouched, but not able to help Godsent take out a couple of members, but not the key targets. The jungle is gone, but pretty much no one else. Paulson has to flash out of the pit. He has been caught out. Aesthetic, this will be a huge pick, but has to have gone to avoid going down. Denvox stepping up, has got Lulu on his back, has got Madly supporting him, but it doesn't look like Tricked are going to look for a full contest. Maybe one snipe with the ultimate, not going to be enough. The dragon is secured by Godsent, but Tricked won't be too upset by the turn of events.
Yeah, but the problem is they lost a lot of members in that fight. They got some gold over to Godsent again, but the gold lead, not that big yet, but it shows that they're able to still lose out on these fights. And great engagement come through in the beginning. Shield wasn't there. The fact was Traxxer had to tank that and put him in a position where he's not able to dish out the damage he wanted. And then the Lulu ultimate, not coming onto any of the carries there, but coming onto himself. I think for Madly, that's a mistake. You're essentially just there to buff off your teammates. If you end up keeping yourself alive with that ultimate, kind of a waste. And it just makes sure that the members of Godsent are able to pick up the Tricked players.
Gotta say, exceptionally well played from Denvox though, remaining untouched. And yes, there was support from the other members of his team. Lucky threw his body on the line to save him. But as you said, Madly ulted himself. So Denvox was just using his own health bar this time around and did manage to survive. Didn't get the dragon, unfortunately. And as you said, there's a bit of a gold lead, 2,500 gold for Godsent at the moment. And they've set themselves up for Soul Point. But as you said, it's not a soul that they could have got if they'd got the first dragons. So Trick still have a little bit of time to fight and get themselves back into this game. And as we say, they're not that far off the pace at the moment.
Oh, and now it just got scary. Paulson finished up his third item. This is just like the Exodia of Jace here. You get the Eclipse, you get the Maroon Mana, and yeah, you get the Serilda's Grudge. And then the poke just starts coming flying through, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be very hard for Godsent to navigate these fights. They need to create some good engage.
Going through, the Stars running down as well. Just hits Lucky. Denvox on the back of the fight. Once again, the damage is coming down, but Godsent are looking to leave. It's a 1-for-1 trade at the moment, but they're just being chased down. Kumu will be able to survive. So much health that he's impossible to melt. And it will just be a fair and even trade in the mid side. Godsent took a fight, but it wasn't the one they wanted.
Yeah, support for support-ish carry, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's still going to put Godsent in a position where they can't start up any objective. It's still going to put Godsent in a position where they're just going even, where the scaling is just continuing. And there's 3 minutes onto this next Drake. I don't know if it's going to be enough. You can see them Voxner as well now, also starting to deal out a ton of damage. And while the gold graph is still in Godsent's favor, it doesn't really feel like that by the game state anymore. It doesn't feel like they're able to just manhandle Tricked. It feels like Tricked is on even footing with them now.
Well, as you said, it's these key power spikes, right? You've got 3 items on the Jace. His poke is insane. 3 items on the Kog'Maw. And with the randomins as well, he's not even that squishy. He's not someone that you can blow up with one ability anymore because he's got that little bit of tankiness on top of him. So it's going to become harder and harder for Godsent to make this small gold lead that they've had. Earlier in the game, this 2k gold lead was doing much more work for them than it is going to be doing now. And of course, you can only get to 6 items once, and Tricked, eventually gold's not going to matter.
It really isn't, but the crucial part is here that Voxner is finally building out his first Mythic. And with the Mythic passive as well, giving legendary items extra scaling on percentages with, well, not percentages, but whatever they give, depending on which one he picks up. That's actually going to give a huge spike, because he's already 3 legendary items. So if he's able to pick up that Mythic before the next objective, he's going to be huge on the Cockmore.
That's an excellent point, of course. That objective could be Baron at any time at this stage, but as we saw before, Godsent not the fastest team at doing it. They do have some decent damage dealers. You can see the Senna has hit 3 items if you're including the support item in that. There's items across the rest of the team as well. All 5 have picked up Mythics, but this game feels like it's on a knife edge when Godsent have themselves a decent gold lead.
It really does feel like that, but you can see right now, Trick, they just gave Voxner everything. Taxa set up the Grump, he got the Grump. Taxa set up the Wolves, he got the Wolves, and then he got the entire mid lane minion wave here. Svenne is out on the flanks. It looks like Godsent is posturing for a fight. He doesn't have flash, but he's in the back line.
All engaged coming through once again. I'm going to have to keep my eyes on Kog'Maw as people go down around, and Svenne is going to be able to spit out his 1-0 for Godsent right now as Taxa looks for the ring. It looks to cut through Sam, won't be able to do so. 6-10 going to be able to dive out once again as well. Paulson with a little bit of poke to end this one out. It's a pick for Godsent. What can they gain off the back of it?
going to be the question. It's support they're getting. That means it's most of the wards gone here, so it's going to be hard for the Trick to get in here and face check unless they're just brute forcing their way forward, which they are right now. Less than a minute onto the Drake, so they're going to be trying to get priority. They already have bot lane minion wave pushing in. They're going to try and get the mid lane here and put themselves in a favorable position for the Drake. Spawning up in 30 seconds. Remember, this is finally Soul coming through from Godsent. They're going to be utilizing that quite well. They have a lot of beefy frontliners, a bit in the Rumble, but obviously the Scion, the Wukong, those are the members we're looking for. It looks like they're TPing onto a play for the Baron.
Yeah, they've got all of their members here. They could look for a fight as well if they can force it, but Madly gonna be able to move away. Yusa goes half health, needs to be super careful of the poke coming through. Remember, Kog'Maw and Jace, it's not going to be a fun time to be standing too near to them. And remember, they don't have Soul just yet. Tricked are being kept away from this Baron, but it's not being fully done. Godsent are forced to peel away as Taxa might be in trouble. The wrong side of the team has to ult over the wall as User takes a decent chunk of damage. The Equalizer used to disengage members of Tricked as Godsent look to keep everyone alive. No one goes down in the end there, but in the top side, 610 Taxa going to be going for a scrap. Taxa trying to sustain as much as possible on the Viego. You see the Dragon has been secured and the damage coming through though. Tricked will trade their jungler for the objective, and now Baron is on the menu. Tricked looking to push down mid.
Yeah, definitely not the member you need to face check with. That needed to be lucky. Now the Baron should just be 3 unless Trick decides they want to collapse onto this one 4v5, and it does look like that is going to be the decision. TP is coming through, Baron is low. This is going to be the fight.
Solo, can they take it? It's secured by Godsent and the fight will kick off. Remember, they're 4v5. Have Baron buff, have the Dragons going down as well. Lucky is melted, but they will trade it 1-for-1. Look at Kuma. He's going so low, but he's just so beefy. 610 dives on the backline. Madly goes golden with Den Boxley. It's Other Creek and has no paddle. He's going to be dove onto by Lee Sin, who's still looking for it. But Den Boxley is just scampering away. Damage comes through. He gets the Lee Sin, but there's the knock-up and the kill. Kumu secures the shutdown on the Scion, and that's a massive team fight for Godsent as they pick up basically everything.
Yeah, I really don't think that was the play from Trick there. They already was going to lose out on the Baron, and they decided they wanted to lose one more fight going into it. But despite the fact they were a man down, they played it very well here. You can see the Vox are doing so well with the kite back. But once again, Members so tanky. The damage coming through from Aesthetic when he splits up the team fights with an Equalizer is going to be the doom of Trick in this team fight. As soon as it's split, there's nothing they could do.
Aesthetic looking so good this game, but no longer 100% kill participation, so kind of trolling as we move into, and it's just Godsent are looking so good. How has this team not got a win yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question, but to be quite fair with you, Viperoon, they definitely haven't played like this in their other games either. This has been the most clean game from Godsent, and while there still is room for improvement, if this is the game they can use as a stepping stone towards their success, maybe this will be it. No one beats Godsent 5 times in a row. Maybe they meant 6.
Maybe they did. Lucky being called out, uses the Glacial Fissure, flashes over the wall, but could still go down. Godsent not able to pick up that last vital auto attack in the top side. Jace picks up a tower, and Lucky's just causing mischief right now in the jungle.
This definitely is. Kraken Slayer now from the Vox has been picked up though, so his team fighting is only going to be more scary. This is the mythic we're looking for. Trick is not going to get much stronger than they are right now.
Are they going to be able to force a fight? Can they make a play? Are Godsent going to step to them and allow them to get back into the game? Or are we going to see a clean closeout in this one? Remember, Godsent want their first win in 6. There aren't that many games in an NLC season. Hiprim was saying this. They need to start winning at some point. And what better statement than to do it here against Trick, who are currently second in their group.
You can see right now they've put up the 4-1 composition. They keep the 4 members in the mid lane, get the pressure, move it down towards the buff, move the pressure in between the lanes, trying to get picked.
610 gets the kick onto Taxa. He's been caught out, ults away to freedom. 610 actually now needs to be really careful. He could go down here as San tries to tag up as much of the damage as possible. But now look at Den Boxley's damage onto this side. Look at Kubu. He melts through, and this is the scary part for Godsent. They need to make that last push into the base, but this is where Tricked are at their strongest, as you said, Paul.
Yeah, it most definitely is, but the thing is right now, Viperoon, 1 minute, 40 seconds. That is going to be the soul for Godsent. We talked about it before. Last time they traded it for Baron. This time around, the Drake is not going to be up at the same time as the next Baron. So, fight should be the only answer for this Drake. I feel like that Drake in 1 minute and 20 seconds is going to put the game in a trajectory out to who is going to take it.
I agree, 100%. Now this is where you earn your money as an analyst. Who at this point in the game, when they fight, do you think is favored in that matchup?
Okay, it's going to come down to execution, and for two reasons. If Tricked is allowed to kite back with the team fight, it's going to be perfect. If Godsent is going to be able to get a pick-up on one of the champions to split the fight, it's going to be them. Now, I can't say obviously how that's going to down, how they play it, but those are the stylistics of the composition.
You're saying you don't know exactly how this next team fight's going to go? You can't give me the play-by-play right now? If you could tell me so that I can prep and then I can just nail it when it actually happens, that'd be really awesome. We'll see into the future, that'd be good. But Godsent, they're not particularly interested about setting up around this dragon. 30 seconds on it. They're pushing down the mid lane.
Yeah, and I like this. You can see they were way too early on the play from the side of Trick. There's still 30 seconds until it spawns of Godsent. They're just going to push the minion wave all the way to the tier 3 turret. Move back with the priority. They have clear out the vision in the jungle. And then look at the pressure. Look at the objective. You're always looking for the pressure in lanes, then the vision, and then you can look for the objective. And now Trick, they're going to be forced to walk up. They're giving up mid lane waves. They're coming in towards the bot lane, so they're going from one flank only.
They might look to start this fight off. It's been Godsent who have usually started the engages. They've got all of those tools. The poke is going to come through from Trick. Remember, if they lose out on this soul and Godsent pick it up, this poke is going to become so much less useful going forward in this game. It's going to be a massive team fight. I don't know who's going to start up. The dragon has been procced by Trick. It's going to start flying out and start putting down damage on whoever and whatever goes too near to him. It could be down to a swipe pulse on the backline, but everyone else is right in front of the dragon. There's the equalizer. The engage coming through from Godsent. Can they take down members? Lucky is gone, but so is Veni. The dragon is secured as members are falling. 610 diving through the backline, but can't find anything. San is big, but he's not big enough as we get a pause because Yusa did disconnect as that team fight kicked off. Massively unfortunate timing. But Godsent, they're sent to the wind.
Oh my god, that is the most anticlimactic pause I've seen then. Oh, but it looks like that Trick right now in that replay is going to be able to clean up the fight, get to Drake, and push down bottom lane. Well, what a time to put the pause. What the...
It's really unfortunate because, I mean, Yusa's still alive. He's on his way back to base, so if he can get reconnected, he might be able to help Godsent, but I can tell you there's a couple of members dead. I don't think Sion's going to get out of this one with 4 members on top of him. And you said that this could be the team fight that sorts out where the trickery of this game is. It's Trick favored.
It really is, but I mean, I need to take a look onto that team fight again because quite honestly, I didn't see the moment where if Yusa disconnected what happened. It looked like they finally got a good pickup on towards Sven's Wukong and didn't really see the impact that it actually had. But yeah, you can totally see the stylistic of the composition where Trick right now with their scaling, it's starting to come through. It's starting to get really scary for the likes of Godsent to play in, despite them having the gold lead that they have, just because of how these champions actually functions against each other. This game is set up for a really explosive finale, and it's been a very slow burning game. There hasn't been too much action. The early game was all about the macro decision making, and Godsent looked so good. They were making all the right decisions. None of this really messy, scrappy skirmishing that we've seen from them in the first 5 games that they've played. They've been very reserved, very controlled, but Tricks were just so good at basically stopping Godsent from having any fun, stopping us from seeing too much action. And now when it matters, people have hit the right number of items. 4 items on Kog'Maw. It's just very, very spooky. Yeah, you don't really see it too often in this meta. Yes, there's still the late game picks, but right now in this meta, most champion spikes on 1 item or 2 items for the Escher or the Akali is the backline dive that we get. But yeah, Trick going in for a composition where they just want to stale down the game. It's the only reason it's felt like this. And now it's time for them to show the payoff of stalling the game. Now they need to be the aggressors. Problem is that can still be kind of hard because most of their composition wants to kite back unless they land the Braum Q where they're just able to proc the stun, because they don't have a lot of that instantaneous engage. It's very much about the peel. It's very much about the kite back with the Lulu and the Braum.
Well, hopefully we're going to have this pause resolved for you in the very, very near future so we can jump back into this game. But I want to see how Tricks can take this team fight win and how they can use it, essentially. Baron is on the map, or will be on the map, in about a minute's time, so there might be a couple of timers that aren't quite there. As we are moving back into the action, there's the Sarn being shut down, but it does look like Yusa Aesthetic did get away.
Exactly, and then we get to the point where they're just going to be able to push in the mid lane. There is going to be a big wave coming in here. Death timers right now, 30 seconds onto Svenne as the lowest. There is a potential for them to look for end here, but I think at worst they're going to get an inhibitor. At best, they're going to try and end the game.
4 members of Tricked are alive. Braum up in 10, but he's not going to be involved in this push. You've got 2 members. There is the equalizer onto the minions, but now Aesthetic is going to be engaged on Pulsing, getting damage down, but takes a load himself. Has to go golden statuette to avoid going down. Yusa not so lucky as Denvox, they makes him pay. The damage is huge from Kog'Maw at this point. It's just Rumble in the mech standing, and it looks like they're going to push towards these Nexus towers, but members are going to be coming up from the initial team fight right now. Denvox, they stepping forward aggressively, trying to get as much damage as possible onto Rumble. Can't get the kill, but can get the tower. 610 has now arrived, but it's 3v4 still as Lucky's running up the mid lane. Tricked might be forced to back away, but they're hanging around in the base. They want to try and end this as another equalizer comes through.
Equalizer comes through. They're still going to continue the fight here.
Wow, Denvox gets one. The San's already dead. He gets another. This Kog'Maw is so scary. Members here, Lucky here to help support, and they're just going to be able to burn down the undead monolith. As damage coming through onto this mid lane tower, the inhibitor will fall as well. And Tricked they just set up shop in the enemy base. Godsent do not have all 5 members to defend. They haven't had all 5 members to defend for a little while now, but they're going to engage onto the Kog'Maw. So much coming through, but Denvox just does not care. That's what happens when you've got a Lulu. That's what happens when you've got a Braum. That's what happens when Denvox is given Kog'Maw as Tricked turn the game around and pick themselves up a win.
And there we go. It was very slow. Very slow. Probably one of the slowest games we've had. Slow. But there you go. That's the late game scaling composition when it finally hits its spikes. And you can see then Voxner picked up 3 legendary items. As soon as he picked up the 4th mythic, really easy for them to just starting these fights, kiting back, kiting forward with the movement speed, the arcane artillery or whatever it's called, just munching down the enemy HP bars. Like, there's so much damage coming out from it.
I mean, it was a turnaround win, but the game was definitely not what we expected. We're going to jump to a short break, but when we come back, it's going to be the analyst desk trying to break that one down. We'll see you in a